about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So we have a lot to get to today, a lot of Supreme Court rulings, a lot of news we'll talk about. But one thing that really ticks me off is when I see Chuck Schumer not speak out about what is happening within his party and the rising anti-Semitism, especially coming from some of the socialists that are getting elected, and seeing blatant anti-Semitism like Poetica deciding to dox a representative, a congressman or a state representative who was having coffee, who actually needed, his daughter needed to pee. So because the barista let her go and pee, he paid for, he bought a coffee and tipped her well. And then all of a sudden the coffee shop on social media decides to accuse him of supporting genocide and also because he's supporting Israel. So you're looking at, you got Chuck Schumer, right? Senate Minority Leader. Is he speaking out about any of this? Are we what's he doing? What are many of the prominent Jews doing? Wake the heck up. You know, in the Republican Party, there's anti-Semitism too. But what's really interesting about what's been happening with that is when you do hear anti-Semitic comments or some anti-Israel rhetoric, the majority of the party, just jumps on that. Even people who have nothing to do with the Jewish faith, don't feel associated with Israel at all, they're like, no, that's not what we stand for. I'm not saying the Republicans are better than Democrats, but I'm saying that you can address anti-Semitism in your party. You can do that very easily and very successfully. And what's happening is the narrative now is if you at all support Jews or support Israel's right to exist among the whole huge Middle East, that little sliver of geography that has historical significance with all the other surrounding Arab countries with also historical significance, but that little baby sliver of land, that is there, that was established at the same time a Palestinian homeland was established in 1948 to allow Jews to, if they're persecuted, have a safe spot, plus to allow protection for Catholics, Mormons, Muslims, anybody else who wants to find safety in a non-terrorist country. People that if you at all support Israel's right to existence, you're going to lose an election. Where's all the Jews speaking out? I'm watching what's happening here, and I'm like, come on. And it's almost like we're seeing, the rise of Nazi Germany again, and people are blatant about it. And they're like, well, we're not saying we hate Jews. We're saying we hate those supporting Israel. And Poetica was calling the coffee, the congressman was drinking genocide Jews. And so, okay, all these little slurs. And another thing that they're also trying to do is we're going to confiscate from the rich. Now, you could be a rich Catholic, you could be a rich Mormon, you could be a rich Muslim, but that's also code for removing property. When did we take away people's property? During Nazi Germany time. And not only did we take property away from Jews, we took them away from Catholics, homosexuals. Why are we allowing there to be this resurgence of fascism, of communism, of racism, anti-Semitism? Why are we allowing that? And you're hearing people go, oh, well, the Democratic Party, has been an amazing party. I hate to see it fall apart because of, what Bernie Sanders is Jewish. Why isn't he speaking out on this? I don't want to see the destruction of people's rights and our integrity and America as a safe place to be. But if the Jews aren't defending themselves and they aren't speaking out, I mean, yes, thank God for the Catholics and Christians. And I am blown away by the support, we're getting. But when I see actual Jews not speak up, not say, well, you know what, this is where the party's going. We need to support Mamdani. We need to support no, actually you don't. Are you putting the D before who you are and ethics? And we have, throughout our American history, we've had some bad people, bad ideas, but the one thing that has kept America alive and kept us whole is sticking to what's right, sticking to the good. Can't be letting this happen. And when I hear idiots in the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, start going off on misinformation and lies and racist, anti-Semitic, whatever rants, you shut them down. You shut them down and you say, shut the hell up. And the Democratic Party is starting to surrender to these socialists who are Democrats. Now, maybe it's because I think of the Democratic Party, I voted for Bill Clinton. I think of, the Democratic Party as the Clinton Party or as the JFK Party. But if this party is now the Mamdani Party, the Graham Plattner with a Nazi tattoo that now has gotten covered up, is that what the Democrats want? Is that what Jewish Democrats want? Republicans are saying, come to our side. We're pro-Israel. I go to Israel. They love Trump over there. Is it really going to take, if I continue to see, I'm going to be more vocal. In fact, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to find out what the hell is going on in some of these places. I kind of just want to walk in there and go, I'm a Jew. Are you going to serve me or not? I want to know what the hell is going on. I mean, I'm hearing it from I've seen anti-Semitism. My kids have seen anti-Semitism, but I just want to see what others are doing when it happens. I'll keep you posted on that. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799 and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Let's rock on. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. Definitely a lot happening today. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. Okay, so we have a lot of Supreme Court rulings, not the big ones that everybody is waiting for in terms of mail-in ballots and birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court usually likes to leave the most controversial for like the tippity tip end, of the term before they go on break. So it's kind of like, you know what, we're going to, throw the grenade or the smoke screen and then leave. And, then by the time everybody kind of, wakes up from what happened, they're gone and they're already on a plane out of DC. So we're not going to see those probably until Monday, we're being told. You would think, well, tomorrow is Friday. I mean, tomorrow is a full work day. But I don't know if anything's coming out tomorrow. I don't know if anybody's working on Friday. People don't work on Fridays anymore. I don't get that. I do. So one of the, so I'll just briefly talk about what's been going on. One is Hawaii's quote unquote vampire rule for gun owners. The Supreme Court struck down this Hawaii gun restriction that limits when people can carry firearms on certain private properties that are open to the public because it infringes on the right to bear arms. Now, this was a 6-3 vote where the court invalidated a measure that requires people with concealed carry permits to ask permission each and every time they want to enter the store or the building and they dubbed it, I guess, the vampire rule because, with Dracula and vampires, I guess you could only walk into a house if you're invited. And so if a vampire can't enter a home unless there was like a formal invitation, I guess. And so they called it that for this gun law. And the court says, no, that violates the Second Amendment. Most states, however, honor concealed carry and they don't make you do that. You could walk, I believe, into a Walmart or Target or whatever. But there are a few states, Hawaii, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, California, who had these quote unquote vampire laws. And so now it's going to affect them. So basically the Hawaii rule, it's pronounced Hawaii, Hawaii rule applies to had applied to private properties that were open to the public, like a gas station, like a store, like a restaurant. And so if you wanted to walk into a restaurant, or if you had to go and get gas or go and use the bathroom at a gas station and you were doing your concealed carry, you had your concealed carry, you could go to prison for a year. So that's why this ended up getting challenged in the lower courts. And then, I think it was Maui residents Jason Wolford, Alison Wolford, and Adam Kaspersky are gun owners with concealed carry licenses. They also are part of the Hawaii Firearms Coalition, a gun rights group. They challenged it, got backing from the Trump administration, and they're able to, carry a firearm in public. I mean, I get if it's a person's house, private residence, say, look, are you comfortable with, just like, can I take off my shoes? Or can I wear my shoes or do you want me to take off my shoes? When you go into somebody's private home, but if you're walking into a restaurant, I mean, if there is something open to the public and you have a concealed carry, that's the whole reason why you have a concealed carry. There, open carry laws allow you to, be open carry outside, whatever, but some private companies might not necessarily allow open carry, but concealed carry allows you, with the exception of, I think, school property or a university or a federal building or things like that. So there's rules that you need to be aware of. So anyway, that was a huge win for gun rights owners. Another big win for the Trump administration had to do with the deportation and asylum. So this was the, again, 6-3, the ruling, where protected, let me get this, let me see if I have, this had to do with the temporary protected status of hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Haiti and Syria, where in this case, Judge Alito wrote the opinion where the law establishes that, and I apologize, I'm having a little bit of issue with our computer. So if, let's say we have a immigrant here and they have to go through their, if they have to, let's say they are non, how do I word this? Let's say that they have overextended their stay. Okay. And the federal government wants to deport them. And they say no. All right. We can have a judge to halt the deportation while I get my act together. The justices said no. Does that kind of make sense? All right. So according to Judge Alito, in these cases, we consider whether respondents who challenge the termination of temporary protected status for aliens in Syria and Haiti are entitled to orders postponing determinations during litigation. We hold that they are not. They say the TPS statute plainly bars consideration of respondents' non-constitutional claims. It allows no judicial review of any determination with respect to the termination of a TPS designation. So the TPS is temporary. And so if they extend that and they are, it basically blocks if them from not being deported if they are set to be deported. So let's say I decide to go to a country, and every time I go to a foreign country, they ask, when am I leaving? They always want to know when I'm leaving, not because I'm so disruptive and I'm so annoying, when I go through customs. It's because, and passport inspection, but it's because, they want to know, okay, when are you leaving? What date? And I tell them, if there's going to be an extension, there's a process that has to happen. But if I'm there beyond when I'm supposed to be, they will deport me. That's just the way it is in other countries. And so what's been happening is you have individuals that, go, well, you know what I'm going to do is I don't want to get deported. So what do I have to do again? So we have so many people here temporarily that expire that, and they're on expired visas, and so when ICE is ready to, okay, now it's time for you to go, they're finding ways to still figure out how to stay. And it's pretty straightforward. If you are here temporarily, it's temporary. If you need to extend it or you're trying to become a citizen or whatever, then you go through that process. But all these individuals who have not, showed up for their court dates and what they're in violation. And if any other country deports you, why wouldn't America also deport you? So that's what's going on with the temporary protected status. I hope I kind of explained that as well as I could. Then you have the case Mullen versus Al Otro Lado. Al Otro Lado was, I think, the other side. The court held, I guess that's what it means, that migrants who are turned away at the border before entering the United States are not entitled to apply for asylum. The other case was Mullen versus Doe with the Haitian and Syrian nationals with trying to get judicial relief. But Mullen versus Al Otro Lado looks at, if somebody comes to the border or they're in Mexico. They say here, according to Judge Alito, this case presents a straightforward question whether an alien who seeks to enter the United States from Mexico arrives in the United States when he or she is still standing on Mexico property in Mexico. In the decision, he says the United States Courts of Appeal for the Ninth Circuit answered yes, that's wrong. He said in ordinary speech, no one would say that person arrives in a place, for example, a house, city, or county or country before the person enters that place. He said we all had to go all the way to SCOTUS to vindicate this. Oh, yeah, sorry. That's Department of Homeland Security General Counsel James Percival, who said it took them going to the Supreme Court for this. So basically, if you have somebody, just standing in Mexico or living in Mexico, they could be any amount of distance from the border, wanting to seek asylum, America doesn't necessarily have to do that. And I know this is kind of tough because we want to help individuals who are seeking asylum, but it seems like everybody and their mother and father and brothers and cousins want to be in America. I don't blame them. Look at what happened with Venezuela and the earthquakes. Look at what's going on with a cartel in Mexico. I don't blame people wanting to come, but America can only help a certain number of people. And so when there's rules to seeking asylum, coming into America and seeking asylum, there's a process. And so that's what the Supreme Court is honoring. More news coming up. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. So health claims of pesticides has been a big area of litigation as people are concerned about what they're being exposed to. And there was another ruling today that the Supreme Court gave as it pertains to Americans' abilities to sue them from a state versus federal level. And so I don't have that briefing in front of me, but it was a 7-2 ruling where the court held that some claims that pesticide companies failed to warn users of their product health risks might be blocked under federal law. So the case stems from the claim of a cancer patient, John Durnell. John Durnell sued Monsanto, saying that the company did not give an adequate warning of cancer risk related to Roundup weed killer. Under Missouri state law, he was awarded $1.25 million. Monsanto is owned by Bayer, and they challenged the verdict. They said that Durnell's failure to warn claim was barred by the nation's pesticide law, noting that the label Roundup is required to bear by the EPA does not include a cancer warning. So what they're saying is they're following federal guidelines. But if a state says you need to also include this on your label, what does the company do? Does the company have to follow all 50 states' requirements, or do they follow the EPA guidelines? So basically, the case centered on whether plaintiffs like Durnell can sue pesticide companies, such as Monsanto, in state court if they do not warn of health effects that go beyond what is formally recognized by the EPA. Now, according to The Hill, the EPA says that key Roundup ingredient glyphosate is unlikely to be a human carcinogen. And so the company, as a result, doesn't have to put the cancer warning label on it. Meanwhile, the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, FIFRA, says that states cannot impose any requirements for labeling or packaging for pesticides that are different from those required under law. The Supreme Court on Thursday determined that this means that cases such as Durnell's then are blocked under federal law. They say federal law requires Monsanto to sell Roundup with the label that the EPA approved, at the initial registration and that the EPA has subsequently reapproved on multiple occasions. That is the label without a cancer warning. This is according to majority opinion Justice Brett Kavanaugh. So Journal State tort claim, by contrast, would require Monsanto to add a cancer warning to its labels. The Missouri law requirement is in addition to and different from Monsanto's federal law labeling obligations. So, as much as I can't stand people getting exposed to chemicals from, these pesticides, I'm not a big fan of pesticides. I understand why they use them. I'm not a fan of them. The Supreme Court is not wrong. And it looks like one of the liberals judges sided with the majority on that one, too. And I think the reason why is, when it comes to labeling, there's strict rules as to what you can add or say. So if you have a product and the EPA says these are the warnings you have to put, and you decide to add an extra label on there going, this is completely safe and healthy, and the federal government doesn't allow you to do that. You can't be doing that. You can't be adding things to your label. And so Monsanto was kind of in a position where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And so if Missouri feels that the Monsanto product causes cancer, are they allowed to say, look, even though the feds don't think it does, you need to do this? And, and so what ended up happening was the Supreme Court said no. And like I said, all 50 states, that could be very, that could be very chaotic. I feel bad for somebody having cancer. The other thing too is this, glyphosate exposure. When somebody gets cancer, such as like non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and the IARC, the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer, classified this glyphosate as a probable human carcinogen. What's the difference between probable and possible? Possible is less than a 50% chance. Probable is greater than 50% chance. According to PBS, it's primarily linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And lymphoma is like a cancer of your lymphatic system, lymph nodes, lymphocytes. The EPA didn't have enough evidence and said it's not likely if humans are using the product properly. Epidemiologic research is showing that higher exposure to this may increase one's risk of lymphoma 41%. So that there's something there. And so being that, in fact, according to a study published in the National Institutes of Health, they say it could raise cancer risk by 41%. However, for the EPA to label it as carcinogenic, there's some pretty strict guidelines. And the EPA has to be correct. I'd rather err on the side of caution. But, and the public needs to know if something is causing cancer or not. Look at what happened with California. What they decided to do was they said anything that could possibly at all be associated with cancer, you got to have it on your label. So California has rules too, but the federal law supersedes. I told you I watched Clarkson's Farm. My father-in-law got me onto that show. I kind of like it a lot, where Jeremy Clarkson operates a farm. I think operating a farm is fascinating. I would never do it. It's too much work. I mean, I'm already working my tail off. But some of the AI sort of, I'm not saying I'm in love with AI, but I understand its efficiency applications. Some of these drones and equipment, farm equipment, can identify where you need to put the pesticide. So as opposed to just blanketly spraying pesticide all over the whole entire field, they could identify where the pesticides need to go and be more precise, possibly saving crop exposure. We're going to get better with it. And I understand we don't want our crops eaten by bugs, and we don't want to be, getting toxins from bugs and I get that, but I also don't want all the chemicals that we're exposed to. So the weed killer Roundup, apparently, lawsuits are still going on, and the EPA has to decide when are they, when are they going to classify it and not? But I'm looking right now at the EPA website. They said glyphosate is a widely used herbicide. It controls broadleaf weeds and grasses, registered as a pesticide in the U.S. since 1974. It has undergone multiple reviews. Apparently, there's a program that reevaluates it on a 15-year cycle. I don't know if I would wait 15 years. I would probably do sooner. But they say in February 2020, after receiving and considering public comments on the glyphosate proposed interim decision, EPA published the interim decision, registration review decision for glyphosate. As part of the action, they found that there was no risk of concern to human health when glyphosate is used in accordance with its current label, and that it's unlikely to be a human carcinogen. They identified the potential ecological risks to non-target organisms, primarily non-target plants through spray drift, and they looked at risk mitigation and all that. And so that this is what they concluded. The problem we have as it pertains to risks with vaccines or risks with medications or risks from a federal standpoint is if somebody gets cancer and they say, well, I got it because I used this product. How do you prove that? This is what was very difficult with the Johnson & Johnson talcum. I think it was feminine products. Did women get ovarian cancer because of other ways that they could get ovarian cancer, or did they get it because they were using a talcum or a feminine product that could have affected their ovaries? I am more likely to, side with exposures, inducing that, but can I prove it 100%? If I get something, can I prove that I was no way going to even be close to getting cancer, and it was only that product. So it's tricky. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. Because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. We'll help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. If you were hurt in a car accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, rideshare accident, slip and fall, or any other type of accident, call our 24/7 hotline now and let us help you find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. I'm Gina Hart, here with spokesman Jack Mercer. So Jack, tell our listeners who should give us a call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me join you here in the studio. It's always great to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. The call is free, the consultation is free, and with our no-fee guarantee, you pay nothing unless we win you money.
That's great advice. Thanks, Jack. And is it true that the Legal Help Center is open 24/7?
That's right, Gina. We're open anytime you need us, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now and let us help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. Not available in California. May not be available in all states.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So a pair of earthquakes in Venezuela has been so devastating and destructive. At least 164 people are confirmed dead, but they are sadly expecting that number to rise. Almost 1,000 have been injured when this happened last night. Acting President, Delcy Rodriguez, said that the toll was likely to keep rising. Rescuers are still searching collapsed buildings. Emergency crews are racing to access devastated areas. President Trump offered help and support. We are told that many Americans are coming out to help, and people from surrounding countries to help find victims. The tremors were large. U.S. Geological Survey said they had magnitudes of 7.2 and 7.5. They say the agency's predictive modeling indicated that the quakes could have killed thousands of people, 42% chance there could be 10,000 fatalities. La Guera on the nation's northern coast apparently was the hardest hit. Dozens of buildings collapsed. And they say we are engaged in the arduous task of rescuing the lives that God allows us to save. According to acting President Rodriguez, the state of La Guaira is facing a true tragedy and has become a disaster zone. So the earthquakes are among the strongest to strike Venezuela in more than a century. Buildings have been evacuated, as well as multiple cities and areas. As far as Brazil's Amazon, about 1,050 miles from the capital of Caracas. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on social media that at President Trump's direction, the U.S. is deploying search teams, medical resources, and humanitarian aid to Venezuela, according to CBS News. Rubio has spoken with the acting president, has offered the full assistance of the U.S., adding to those efforts underway. Trump also wrote on True Social that the two major earthquakes that just hit the great people of Venezuela are both massive in scale and have left a devastating number of deaths. The U.S. stands ready, willing, and able to help. I've instructed all agencies of our government to get ready to move quickly. We will be there for our new and great friends. Early reports are not good. So offers of help have come from Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, China, Ecuador, El Salvador, Mexico, Panama, and Uruguay. So it's a state of emergency there. It's a very active situation. And Rodriguez has asked all healthcare professionals in the country to report to hospitals to assist anyone who was injured. It's all hands on deck. Some schools are going to be turned into shelters and donation centers. These earthquakes hit within minutes apart. It's as I've said before, in our neck of the woods, we're really watching the Pacific Northwest, as in the last 20 years we have seen major earthquakes hit New Zealand, hit Chile, hit Japan. So those are the three corners of our Pacific, and they're expecting that the Northeast Pacific, or our Northwest United States, is going to get a big one. And they keep telling us to prepare. I go up to Northwest U.S. As when I can. Unfortunately, Japan looks like got hit with another one. A powerful 7.2 magnitude earthquake has struck off of northern Japan. They did not have to, however, do tsunami warnings, from what I understand. The quake had a magnitude of 7.2 and occurred off the eastern coast of Iwate. Then it was upgraded. It was originally 6.9 and then upgraded to a 7.2. The quake had a depth of about 30 miles. And so we don't have a lot of information on injuries there, but it doesn't seem to be as catastrophic as what's going on with Venezuela. So, for those of us that are concerned about, earthquake happening, what do we do? So ready.gov is a great site, has a lot of things to prepare for preparation, as well as what to do during an earthquake. So they always say that you want to prepare before any disaster happens. Make an emergency plan, create a family emergency communications plan that has an out-of-state contact, plan where to meet. If you get separated, make sure you have a supply kit that includes food and water for several days, a flashlight, a fire extinguisher, and a whistle. Why a whistle? So that you can alert somebody that you're there. Tapping on something could also make noise, but you want to be able to also, a lot of times these rescue teams will use dogs. So it helps to have something that dogs can hear and alert as well. They say being prepared allows you to avoid unnecessary trips and address minor medical issues at home, lessening the burden on urgent care centers and hospitals. They say remember that not everyone can afford to respond. By stocking up on necessities, for those who can't afford it, make essential purchases and slowly build up supplies. Protect your home. You got to secure heavy items in your home like bookcases, refrigerators, water heaters, televisions, objects that hang on the walls. See, our televisions used to be on the ground or on a small stand. Now everybody has them hung on the wall. Okay, well, those things fall and crash, and those could be pretty bad. For those of us living in an older structure, if you are able to ensure that any structural issues are fixed, do that. When you're living in apartments, have a conversation with your landlord about this. Hopefully they're willing to listen and they are on top of it. During an earthquake, you got to protect yourself right away. If you are inside, stay inside. Okay, don't run outside trying to get some videos. Avoid doorways. Very interesting, because I remember my husband during the Northridge quake said he was under one doorway while his parents were under another. And they did that because the structure is supposed to be stronger under a doorway, but I think they're worried because doors will close on you, hit you. They say you want to drop and take cover. They say if you're in bed, turn face down, cover your head and neck with a pillow. If you're in a car, pull over and stop and set your parking brake. If you're outside, stay there. Move to an open area away from buildings, trees, streetlights, power lines. Drop and cover until shaking stops to protect yourself from flying debris. When I went to school in California, we would have earthquake training. So they would tell us, there's an earthquake. What do we do? So we had to drop, get onto our hands and knees. We had to cover our head and neck with one arm and hand, go under our desks or tables, crawl underneath it. Now, if you don't have any tables or anything, we don't. I mean, we might have like a coffee table. We really have nothing if it happened in my house. So they say crawl next to an interior wall, not a wall by windows, because the windows will shatter and cut you. But they say crawl next to an interior wall, stay on your knees, and bend over to protect all vital organs. That's why you are in prone position as opposed to supine. Prone is where you're facing the ground. Supine is where you're facing up. They say hold on until the shaking stops. If under shelter, hold on with one hand and be ready to move when the shelter, if your shelter moves. If you're not under a shelter, hold on to your head and neck with both arms and hands. They say if you're using a cane, drop, cover, and hold on. Sit on a chair, bed, cover your head and neck with both hands. Keep your cane near you so it can be used when the shaking stops. Same thing with walker or wheelchair. They actually say to stop the giggling, lock the wheels. All right, this isn't funny. This is serious. If you have a wheelchair, you got to lock the wheels. If using a walker carefully, I know, they'll roll. It'll roll away and they could hurt. These wheelchairs are pretty heavy. If using a walker carefully, get as low as possible. Bend over and cover your head and neck with your arms, a book, even pillow, and hold on until the shaking stops. After the earthquake, there's a lot of risk, because you could have downed power lines, gas lines, water lines that are damaged. Also expect aftershock, so be ready to drop, cover, and hold on all over again. If you're in a damaged building, get the hell out. Move away from the building and don't enter a damaged building. If you're trapped, send a text or bang on a pipe or wall. Cover your mouth with your shirt for protection. They say don't shout, use a whistle. Now, I don't have a whistle on me, but that might be a good idea to have. And then, of course, if you're in an area where there's tsunamis, you got to get to higher ground and then be there to help others. Listen to your local news reports, AM radio, emergency broadcast system, text, and be careful when you clean up debris. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.